This lesson is for Mrs. Cucci's College Now College Prep class. We are on lesson 3.4, linear inequalities in one variable. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is how we graph subsets of real numbers on a number line. So how we're graphing inequalities on a number line, okay? So let's start with some basics here. This says x is a real number such that x is less than a. Okay, so x such that x is less than a. So I'll say it again. X such that x is less than a. Okay. So x is less than a. So on a number line, how would we graph that? I'm gonna have a, and I'll put b here too, just for another vantage point. If it's less than, you're gonna have an open circle, and less than is gonna go to the left. Less than left. Okay. So there's less than. So if it's less than or greater than, it's an open circle, and greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's a closed circle. So you'll see that as we go through this. Okay. All right. This states x is less than or equal to a. So again, number line, a and b. You're going to be enclosed on a because it's that equal to, and since it's less than again, you're going to shade left. This is x is greater than b. I'm going to stop writing it out. If you want to write those in, you can. X is greater than b. So greater than is going to have an open circle. And whenever you're greater than, you're going to shade to the right. The next one is x is greater than or equal to b. So closed on b and to the right. So now we get a little bit more difficult. This says x is greater than a and x is less than b. So if I read it going this way, x is greater than a, and this way, x is less than b. Greater than a and less than b. Now notice they're both greater than, less than. So we're going to use two open circles here. Okay, greater than and less than. So greater than a gets shaded to the right, but less than b gets shaded to the left. So this is going to be everything in between a and b. And as you can see, the next one it's exactly the same, except instead of greater than and less than, it's greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. So instead of having open circles, we're going to have closed, and it's still everything in between. Okay. You will occasionally see these signs so that they're mixed up a bit. Okay, one greater than or equal to, and vice versa. So this one is x is greater than or equal to a, so that one's closed. And this is less than b, so this one's open. And we're still shading everything in between. And the last one, it's greater than a and less than or equal to b. So open and closed. And again, everything in between. Okay, so we're going to graph these on a number line, each one of these on a number line. So this states that x is less than 3. So you're going to put a couple of values onto this number line. You want at least one on either side so that you make sure you have enough information there. Since it's less than, it is going to be an open circle. And less than goes to the left. So there you have x is less than 3. So again, there's -1. I want 1 on either side. -2, 0. Greater than or equal to -1. So now that's going to be closed. And since it's greater than, you're shading to the right. Okay, so -1 to 3. So I know I have to have those both in there. So I need to make sure I include enough information. So I went from -2 to 5 just to give me plenty of values. Greater than -1, so open on -1. Less than or equal to 3, closed. And that's going to be everything in between. Okay, so now that you know how to graph them, let's talk about how we solve these linear inequalities. Okay, so we're going to solve and graph on a number line. So just like we solved equations, we're going to solve inequalities. There is one extra step that's involved when we get into the little more difficult ones, and we'll cross that path when we get there. So you're going to solve this just like you would if it was just a basic equation. So we know we need to isolate the variable. So your undoing order of operations, you're going to add that 7 across. So you get 4x is greater than or equal to 12. And then last but not least, you divide by 4. You get x is greater than or equal to 3. So you want to go ahead and put that on the number line. Greater than or equal to is closed. Since it's greater than, you're going to go right. All right. And we're going to do the same thing with these. Now, so in here, we've got 1/3 x is less than 5, so we want to get rid of the 1/3. So the way we get rid of the 1/3 is you divide by 1/3. Dividing by 1/3 is the same thing as multiplying both sides by 3. So what happens here is those cancel, and I get x is less than 15. So again, I build my number line, put some values on there. It's less than, so it's going to be open and to the left. Okay, now with this next one, we actually run into something a little bit different that we need to talk about. Okay, I want to isolate this x here. I've got that -3. When you're dealing with inequalities, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to change the center sign. Okay, so again, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to change the sign. You got to flip it. Okay, so those cancel, and I get x, and it's going to flip to greater than -7. So again, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip that inequality sign. Make your number line. It's going to be open and greater than. Okay, so let's try one that's a little bit more difficult. So just like we did when it was just an equation, all of the rules are exactly the same except for when you multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, so you want to get all of the variables to one side, all of the constants to the other. You're still moving the smaller term with the variable to the other side. So you don't have to deal with a negative. Okay. Move the constant to the other side. -12 minus 2 is -14. And then divide by 2. So I get -7 is greater than x. Now, if you're used to seeing the x first, you can rewrite this, but make sure that if this is eating the 7, when you flip it, it stays eating the 7. Okay, the negative 7. Number line. Is less than, so it's open and to the left. Okay, let's try the next one. So just like we would if it was an equation, we're going to start by distributing. We're going to combine like terms on each side of the inequality. Now we're going to move all the variables to one side. And all the constants to the other. And again, if the constant is first instead of the variable, you can change it, but make sure that if it was eating the x, it stays eating the x. It's going to be closed because it's greater than or equal to, and you're going to shade to the right. Okay, so now this one is a 3-part inequality, and these aren't very difficult. You're just going to do whatever you did with an equation, but to both sides. So you're working from the center out, okay? So you still want to get this 2x alone, so you got to move this plus 1. So you're just going to subtract it from all sides. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. 2x, 2. Still got to get this x alone, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. Get negative 2, x, 1. And now we can graph it. So open on the negative 2, closed on the 1. And it's going to be everything in between. Okay. Last one. Navigation. Final course grade. To earn an A in a course, you must have a final average of at least a 90. So it's got to be greater than or equal to 90. At least, right? On the first 4 exams, you received an 86. A 92, oops, an 88, I missed one, and an 84. If the final exam counts as 2 grades, what must you earn on the final to earn an A? Okay, so you're going to add together 2 grades. And we know the average of all these has to be greater than or equal to 90. So 1, 2, if I want the average, I know I'm adding them all up. Then I have to divide by the total number of grades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's call these x. We know it's going to be the same, so they can both be x. I'm going to combine my like terms. 86 plus 92 plus 88 plus 84. I get 350 plus 2x. Okay. Don't like that 6 down there, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 6 so that those cancel. Now solve the inequality. Oops, sorry about that. 95. So you need a 95 on the final in order to get an A in the class. And that's that. Okay, make sure you do the practice document after, and I'll see you tomorrow.